Hello there, partakers. Thank you so much for joining us on the Your Take Show this week. Well, on the Your Take Show this week, we're going to have the food throne and then go into the discussion room. And then also we'll have a wellness quote that I leave you with until next week. But before we actually get into all the nitty-gritties of this very awesome show that is made possible by you, let me take you through how you can, actually get to contact me and also, just link up with me on my social media platforms, even as we go through the show today. Send in your questions, send in your feedback and proposals when it comes to health and nutrition. And yeah, let's keep this thing going. So firstly, on YouTube, my YouTube channel name is Amanda Twebaze Nutritionist. On Facebook, the Facebook page name is Amanda Twebaze Nutritionist. I'm also on Instagram, which is my Instagram handle actually is Food Witness, and then my email is amanda.chichoncho@gmail.com. If you're a person that loves to read short stories, inspiring, mentoring in terms of food and great nutrition, then you'd also definitely be happy to visit my blog. The blog is amandatwebaze.blogspot.com. So head down there, follow me, subscribe, keep chatting, ask your questions on WhatsApp as well. You can send in your questions directly. It's 0782 152610. So now that we are in contact and in communication, let's head into our food throne, which starts our show off today. In our food throne today, as you can see, I don't have to explain much, is ndagala. So for those that don't know Luganda, that is banana leaves. Banana leaves are actually really huge. When I was getting myself some, I was wondering, why is each leaf, about 200 or 250 shillings? And then I realized, it's actually the size that, actually matters. So banana leaves are really helpful for us. In my language, it's actually called indere. So banana leaves are really one great way to add value, nutrition value and flavor to your food. Down here in Uganda, we actually think we are doing this out of tradition, because your parents did it, so you're doing it. Because that's what they taught you to cook like, so you're cooking like that. But we actually may not be knowing that we're getting way more benefits than just adding flavor to our food, because definitely the flavor that banana leaves give our, rice, potatoes, whatever you're steaming is, top notch. But they also have what we'd like to call polyphenols in the science world. Those are just health promoting, chemicals that, would be helpful for fighting infection, helping to boost your immune system, and that is what is abundant in these banana leaves. The good thing with the banana leaves is, as you put food on them or as you use them to cook, those polyphenols actually are able to, seep into the food that you're cooking. So they get absorbed into the food that you're cooking, and then you are able to, just get the most out of those banana leaves. Another great thing about banana leaves is you can actually use them as plates. So you don't have to keep washing plates all the time. We can also create a more sustainable green world by just having more banana leaves that we use as plates. So all you'll do is, maybe chop your banana leaf into two, because mine is really huge, unless I'm going to have a whole, party boat at a party or something. But if I'm going to just serve for a family, a smaller family, then I could just put my banana leaf there, of course washed, and then, just apply your different foods, maybe rice, maybe matoke, maybe potatoes, and then sauces on the other side. This also helps to create some sense of community, some sense of, communal eating that also definitely helps us to bond. So banana leaves are definitely one thing that you might want to add into your food routine and to your eating routine, because of not just the flavor that they bring, but all those other added benefits that we have talked about. They're also reusable, so for quite a number of times, so you can use them, say, not just once. You can actually use them and then reuse them and then reuse them. So I will not go into explaining so much. It just seems like there are multiple benefits from them, and we should definitely use them. Now, how about we head into our discussion room and let's hear from you. What are you asking, but what are the lessons, most importantly, that we are learning from what you're actually asking? So in our discussion room, Twehamye starts us off and he's asking, I usually feel pain when I'm urinating. What can I do? So if you say usually, it means that this has been going on for quite a while, if I haven't gotten you wrong. Now, we shouldn't be keeping symptoms ongoing or signs that we see that, you know, something is not okay, that something is not normal, ongoing for quite a long period of time, because the more you let it happen, it could be destroying parts of your body systems or parts of your body organs, and who knows if by the time you actually go and seek help or treatment, that things would be way out of hand, or you'd need to be way more expensive, or you'd need way more you know, sophisticated treatment, complicated treatment to actually deal with the problem. Yet you could have actually caught it and dealt with it when it was still, you know, still very immature. So don't let symptoms, you know, persist for too long. Don't let the signs go on for too long. What I also would like to say is, if you feel like something doesn't feel normal, then it's probably not normal. So if you feel like, yes, I'm urinating, but this is not the way that I should be, I'm feeling pain, which is not the normal thing, then you definitely should know that something is definitely not normal about that urinating. So if it doesn't feel normal, please respect that, listen to that, and, you know, head to working on it. You know, find specialized help from our specialists, you know, ask around, do your research, because it's very important that you catch on these diseases when they are still in their very early stages. Let's head on to our second question that's coming in from Reen or Renee Jaden. I hope I've pronounced your name right. They were asking, what food values are found in silverfish? Because people say they contain a lot and it can improve one's health. The greatest thing about silverfish that I really love is that all parts of the fish are edible. You know how when you're eating tilapia fish, for example, or maybe, okay, Nile perch doesn't have so much bones, but tilapia fish, let's take an example of that. Yes, you'll have excitement and you know you'll enjoy the flesh, but at the end of the day you have to throw away the bones because you just cannot eat them, and yet they might have had nutrients they could offer for you in terms of helping your body grow, for example calcium. But when it comes to something like silverfish, which we like to call mukene locally here, you are actually able to even eat the bones. So you eat the bones, you eat the skin, you eat the eyes, you eat the head, you practically eat everything. And that's the greatest thing about it, because all those different parts actually give you nutrients. The details of all the nutrients that you actually can get from this mukene fish will be, you know, just explained down on the Facebook page. So please head down there. It's really important that you join that community. It's doing wonders for, you know, just pushing the nutrition front. So some of the things that you might be getting, especially the most abundant mineral in silverfish, would be calcium and also iron. So those are really important to make sure that you have, you know, great blood volume, you have oxygen moving through your body system, you don't suffer from anemia, you have strong bones, you know, your muscles are actually communicating to each other, right? Your nerves are also communicating to each other, right? So we definitely cannot run away from having silverfish, and I would advise that you actually add it into your diet. Let's head on to our third question now. Our third question comes in from Kaitesi Mahoro Shad, and she was asking, my libido is so low to nothing. What can I try? Now, when it comes to these kinds of things, we are going to be talking definitely sex hormones, and those are really important to help you with the drive. You know, just make sure you're also functioning well, even if you have had a point where, you know, you have been considered to have a low probably sperm count, you're trying to improve that. All these are definitely dictated upon by the sex hormones and how healthy or how coordinative they are. So you might want to focus a lot more on improving their production, and also making sure that they are, you know, protected from injury and damage from all these things. So here are some of the most important things that you will need. Vitamins, vitamins, and vitamins. Vitamins are very important for libido. So you want to focus a lot on having lots of fruit, you want to focus a lot on having lots of vegetable, but please focus on those that are actually from bright colored foods. So say we are looking at purple cabbage, you're looking at chilies, you know, you're looking at carrots, you're looking at avocado as well, you're looking at mango, because the vitamins found in there, and also cereals, the vitamins found in there are quite required. They are a big prerequisite for, you know, making sure these sex hormones actually work the right way. So you're looking out for vitamins, say like vitamin C, You're looking out for vitamin E, which is like the king of, you know, the sex hormones, found abundantly in things like avocado and avocado oil. So good oils, healthy oils. You're looking out for also vitamin Bs, because those provide you with the energy to actually be able to, you know, have your libido back up. So yes, so look out for vitamins, focus a lot on vitamins, try and add a lot more of that into your diet. Our last two questions that are in the discussion room today, the fourth one is actually coming in from very many people asking this. One is Shadia Naiga, another one is Patrick Miles, another one is Isaac, another one is Kim Swag, and so many others that I actually couldn't list here. Everyone is asking about this. My appetite is bad. I hate food. What can I drink in order to gain some good weight? Eating is a very big problem to me. So you know that our bodies actually thrive on food, and when you're born, you're actually born with that innate you know, ability to eat. But as we go along through life, you know, there's always this physiological stress, psychological stresses that hit us, and so kind of our eating patterns also change, and our behavior changes, including our eating patterns. So you might want, if you have such a terrible relationship with food, especially like for someone who says, I hate food, that's a very strong word for food, for something that actually sustains you. And well, of course, it's where you're at now, and it's great that you have come to that realization, but we need to start working on that. So starting from the point where you need to figure out, where did this start? Where did you get to a point where, you know, food became starving yourself, for example, or just ridding yourself of food, or punishing yourself somewhat in the sense of not eating food became some sort of consolation for you to deal with your emotional problems, because food is a very emotional you know, aspect of our lives. It's intertwined with our emotions. When you're happy, you're excited, you want to have something, you know, probably exciting as well to eat. When you are sad, some people just run to food and they'll feel temporarily better, and then, you know, get back to their sorrows. I mean, you have food every day. We strive so hard to go out there every day and work so that we can come back and bring food to our family's tables. Why? Because that's a sign of you know, care for the people that you love. It's a sign of people also respecting you as a person that actually is responsible for his people or for her people. So food has a lot of emotional attachment, and we should not you know, just ignore that. That's why if you have such a bad relationship with food, where it's at a point where you hate food, your appetite is really, really bad, chronically bad, that's chronic over a long period of time, then you have to figure out, go back in time and understand, when did this start happening? When did I start hating food? Was it because I was bullied at school at some point, and then, you know, I just figured I don't like maybe what is being packed for me from home, and so I'll just hide my food and not eat it and then starve, and that's how, you know, you thought starving yourself started to solve your problems, and it has continued up into your adult life. So you need to figure out, when did that start, and then work on it, because until you work on the psychological bit, or you work on getting emotionally better, then you might still have a very terrible relationship with food, because eating actually starts up here. It starts here. It doesn't only start with the mouth. Let's head into our fifth question that is coming from Balm of Gilead. That is his name. He says, do you mind making a presentation on keto diet, low calorie filling foods, plus weight loss? Now, when it comes to keto diets, it's a very popular diet. And if you might want to know, it was actually not initially intended for weight loss, like, you know, to help with weight loss. It was initially intended for people with neurological disorders. So things like, you know, you have epilepsy. It actually was started out to help people that have epilepsy. And it came and, you know, proved to show great results for those people. But one of the side effects for some people, actually for most people, that it was able to bring on was weight loss. So some people started taking advantage of that to actually focus more on getting their weight loss. But if we are talking about making a whole presentation, I really can't. I don't have much time on this very special channel. So, you know, if you want more of that, we'll do that down on the Facebook page. So head down there and you'll get more information. But you might want to know that one important aspect you should keep in mind as you deal with keto diets is yes, it's supposed to be the most abundant nutrients actually for a keto diet to work is having fat. So you have to have a lot of fat to be able to lose weight. That doesn't sound, like what we are used to. Normally they tell us don't have fat at all so that, you can lose weight. But in this keto diet, you're actually supposed to have a lot more fat than any other nutrient in your menu, and then have, moderate amounts of protein, and then the least nutrient that you should have is actually carbohydrates. So not calories, but carbohydrates are almost to a very low or very minimum level, but fats are high up there. And another thing we must remember as we do these keto diets is, yes, we encourage that you do a lot of fat, but the fat should also be, the natural kinds, the unprocessed kinds, because if you have the processed kinds, then you're not going to get the effect of, making adequate amount of ketone bodies that you actually need to lose this weight. So, look out for natural types of fat, say cheese, say butter, say whole milk. You're not looking out for those that are low sugar kind or skimmed things. Yes, so that's what you should keep at the back of your mind as you work on a keto diet. I hope that actually has helped you. Let's head on now into the take of the week and see who takes the shine for actually giving us the greatest opinion of the week on the Facebook page. The take of the week this week comes in from Aguela Kwap Dorothy Amongin. Wow, interesting name. Well, she was saying, if I am buying a product for the first time, I always read ingredients list. But if it's the usual, I don't bother. Why do I check, you ask? Because some ingredients don't rhyme with people's stomachs. Talking of sensitive tummies. And this is a very, very important point for us to note, that as we are buying new products, normally we just go into the supermarket shelves and you pick everything out of there, especially if they are not natural products. There are all these processed things out there. You're picking, yes, your ingredients for cooking or for making your meals, but you're just picking and throwing into your trolley, picking and throwing into your trolley, even for new products that you've not used before. And this is where you can actually get life-threatening conditions like allergies. So you need to be really careful how you shop. So look through the ingredients list if you actually have a product that you're buying for the first time. If you have a product that you've always been buying and you already checked through the ingredients list so you know what's in there, then that's okay. But if you're getting a new product, remember to check the ingredients list, because there might be something that doesn't rhyme with you, and there might be something that may actually be life-threatening for you. So that was it. Thank you, Dorothy, for that. Let's head on to our wellness quote. Our wellness quote is coming in from Karen Salmanson, and she says, healthy does not mean starving yourself ever. So yes, we're talking about healthy, and people have been made to think that you have to starve yourself, you have to eat extremely small amounts of food to be healthy, but that is not it. Being healthy doesn't mean starve yourself. It just means eat the right foods in the right proportions and also the right time, and then you'll be healthy at the end of the day. So that was it for this show. Thank you so much for joining us. Until next week, every single Sunday, do not forget we are here at 6 p.m. and the repeat shows on Monday at 10:45 a.m. I'll be waiting to see you again and have this group time with you. Until then, it's been Amanda and my very awesome crew behind the cameras. Bye-bye.